Yo, what is good, my anime faithful? What is good, yo? So, if you are not a huge fan of this show, I don't expect you to really care that it's coming to an end, but nonetheless, it is definitely one of the shows that it's going to be tough for other shows to compete with when it comes down to just how much fun it had, and not only how much fun it had, but how ridiculously good the episodes look every single time we saw them. Definitely that Food War esque like aesthetic, how it looked and just kind of felt. I mean, everything that happened in the show felt like there was something you can kind of pick apart from it from somewhere that they either were making poking fun at or something, or they were just doing in general that sometimes always shows up in a lot of different animes that we've seen prior. But regardless of all that, seeing these characters kind of starting to do the same rituals now is also kind of weird to me. Like for instance, we watched them do this same kind of song and dance when it came down to the talent show or like being an idol. So to then have them doing this again kind of felt weird to me. Or just like kind of a forced storytelling. I don't know. It feels like if this is how the story is written, it would feel almost as if it's being made for a certain type of not made for a certain type of, but it's made in a certain way that wouldn't necessarily be aesthetically pleasing. Like just all of a sudden, never having any days kind of happen. You just jump from holiday to holiday pretty much. That seemed kind of weird to me. And not only did we jump from these different holidays, we don't even get anything actually unique from them. And they use, the same kind of judge and all of this different, like training that they've been getting ready to use all the time. But at the end of the day, you're kind of like, okay, so what else comes if this show doesn't use these tropes? Like, what else did we really see besides these tropes over and over, And that was kind of the weird part to me. But overall, I hope that it is still enjoyable for everybody. And this week's episode had its, funny parts always. But at the same time, it definitely started to feel like you can pretty much call out what's going to happen. And for comedy shows, it's not as bad. But when you get to a point where it's kind of dull as how it gets to those points, that's when it like dropped in interest for me. I was kind of like, ooh, this episode really didn't keep up like the same energy as a lot of other ones. Almost like they used as much material as they can, as fast as they can, and then the material kind of is now being reused. Besides the teacher getting absolutely hammered drunk on New Year's with just one other person who else is single, that was pretty hype. And then not only does she do that, she then wakes up regretting the drunkenness, but still performing this ridiculous wrestler bridge. So my hat's off to her, man. Like you can't knock her for doing that. So overall, seeing them do the same, well, they didn't even do the same unique like routine or anything. It's just the fact that they really didn't give us a reason to look forward to anything in this week's episode, including since like the funniest thing happened was with them getting to the place to do their prayers, the shrine, and just finding all the muscle guys there, just literally trying to give them certain people hope and stuff like that their wishes will come true, or whatever they're wishing for isn't a bad thing, whatever have you. And these guys are straight up booty naked in their workout gear somehow, just chilling, just absolute monsters. So that was really interesting to me. But overall, I look forward to seeing where all this pretty much ends up because as of now, we haven't got to see just, you know, something that has a continuation or even something that isn't holiday like seasonal as of a while. So that's kind of weird for me. I don't know if it is for anyone else, but it definitely feels weird to me just playing the trove of every single, you know, season, like seasonal things, and then you don't even have the characters really doing anything in between those times. You're just jumping and skipping everything. And the only reason why it feels like this show even exists is because of our main girl who kind of just wants to keep a basic body, and yet the only reason why she keeps getting any more like chubby or whatever is because she doesn't eat in moderations like her friends who all stay the same, shape besides when they feel like drawing in some extra defined, muscles that they've built up over the times of working out. But regardless, you never hear anyone else be like, "Oh, well, don't worry about what she's saying. She gained weight too," or anything like that. It's usually just our main girl, So that's also been kind of weird to me. I don't know. I always look kind of too far into some shows, so that already might be looking a little bit too far into it already. But that's what I do, and that's how it be. I don't know if it's actually gonna, get any information from any of that stuff for our viewing pleasure, but it doesn't really matter at the end of the day because as long as it's funny, as long as the people who made it are enjoying themselves, and if it's faithful to the adaptation, I mean, if the writing is literally seasonal weirdness, throughout each volume or each chapter or whatever, then then they did it justice regardless. So I would love to see what you guys are saying or what you're thinking about this show. They even kind of announced that this was the last episode coming up. I kind of like that, the awareness of, your time on stage and stuff like that. So it kind of goes to show you where anime has kind of come from to where it is now. Um, Sometimes when these shows end, it's almost like they want it to feel so authentic that it ends without even saying anything. I mean, one thing I could see is Cowboy Bebop kind of gave it some hints that it was coming to an end, but at the same time, seeing it and then when it all happened, you're like, wow. And then they just give you a tagline that goes to show you they really did know this was the last episode, unlike the audience who weren't expecting it at the time. So people just have different ways of giving that information out, and we've already had that information, but if we did it with the technology and stuff like that, to see that it was going to be 12 episodes regardless of what we already knew prior going into it, it could have been, a little bit more of a sad thing of like, oh, the last episode, God, it went so fast. But now it's kind of like, oh, well, no, does the last episode. I looked it up already, So it's weird, and I love it. I love the change that always comes with something. That just goes to show you that it's being, noticed, and not only noticed, but taken more serious every time we look at it. So with all that being said, I hope you guys have an amazing day, night, evening, whatever the case may be. I'm your boy, the Anime G, and I will definitely talk to you tomorrow. I'm trying to think of what I want to post first, and I guess it'll just be a surprise. So with that, bang.